Welcome to 100 Yards of Football this morning. Today, I'm going to highlight the Los Angeles Chargers of the AFC West Team Preview 2021. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it here on 100 Yards of Football. So let's get started with the team out there in the city of Hollywood, the LA Chargers. When I think about the Chargers, before I get into the 2021 Team Preview, I always got to go back to the uniforms. I love that powder blue. And back in the day, what really got me interested in the Chargers football history, go back to that 63 team that was playing in the AFL, that was throwing the football all over the place, had a head coach by the name of Sid Gilman. But there was one player that went to the same college I went to, the University of Arkansas, Pig Seward. And he played wide receiver. And he was fast. And he had a nickname called Bambi, Lancey Allworth. And I loved him, boy. Fast, quick, and he could get deep. And he was a Caucasian brother that gave hell to them brothers back in the day in the AFL. Then I think about that 63 team he played that beat the Boston Patriots 51-10. They had the great John Hadle, Kansas finest, Kansas Jayhawk, Keith Lincoln, Paul Lowe. That was a very special football team. Then some years as I started to grow, then I went to the University of Arkansas as a freshman in 1978. Then I really got involved in the game. The Chargers started ascending in the National Football League. And when you talk about offenses, there's probably no offense that was better than any time in pro football history. Now, we had great offenses that came up, the LA Rams, the greatest show on turf at the time, the St. Louis Rams, the 49ers of the 80s, teams that can score points. Then the Minnesota Vikings in the late 1900s, they had Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Randall Cunningham. But this team in the 80s, the Chargers offense, I wouldn't be wrong if I didn't give them their due here on Team Preview. They were must-see TV under Don Cornell. Dan Fouts, the quarterback. The legend himself, who I consider still the best tight end in the game, Kellen Winslow Sr. The great man out of Grambling, Charlie Joyner. The guy with the glasses out of University of Cal, Chuck Muncie. War Eagle, James Brooks. They did their thing, man, in the 80s with the offensive style of football. The San Diego Chargers was that team. Now let's go to 2021. When you look at the Chargers, you think about what happened to them last year. I was really sad to see Anthony Lynn get fired because I thought he was a real strong football coach. But the bottom line is about winning, and he didn't win enough close games for him. So the Chargers decided to make a move, and they brought in a very good young stud by the name of Brandon Staley. Only 38 years old. But think about this. As a D coordinator in his first year, he had the number one ranked defense with the LA Rams. And they played at a high level. Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers, oh my God. John Johnson, Jalen Ramsey, that team came together defensively. And the Chargers made a good hire and get Mr. Staley. And the thing that's so impressive with Brandon Staley, as a head coach, he's a D coordinator, but he made his bones. He was a quarterback in college at the University of Dayton. And he started 21 games and won 16. So I'm looking at, this guy's got a brilliant football mind. Now let's start with the Chargers. And Mr. Staley's got some good players. This Chargers team has got some playmakers. The quarterback position. It can be another guy that can be better built for Hollywood. Justin Herbert came onto the scene last year. There was a lot of question marks about him. But that guy 6'6", 235, got the long, good-looking black hair, and the good-looking face, he put you on notice. 4,300 yards. Oh, my God. Let me get it right. 31 touchdowns. 10 IITs. 66 completion percentage. I call him the new Joe Namath of the National Football League coming onto the scene. And he played real good football, bro. And his offensive line really wasn't that well. Had some holes in it. But let me start with the running back position. They deep. Austin Eckler is a player. Got hurt last year. But he still went over 500 yards in 6 games. Justin Jackson out of Northwestern is a stud. My man out of UCLA, Joshua Kelly, is a twitching good guy. He's good. Then they drafted Larry Roundtree III out of the University of Missouri. 3,700 career rushing yards, 40 touchdowns in the toughest conference of all of college football. That's right, the SEC, the SEC. Now moving to the receiver position. Keelan Allen, Pro Bowler, had over 100 receptions last year. Stud out of Cal. Michael Williams, 48 receptions, 756 yards, 7 touchdowns out of We Are the Family, Clemson University. Then they got Mr. Jalen Guyton out of North Texas State, averaged over 18 yards a catch. Then I love the offensive line. Help is on his way. They signed the top free agent center. Corey Lindsey out of Green Bay is coming. But what I like, they got arguably, and a lot of people saying he was the best offensive lineman in the draft. A guy that does videos with me here on 100 Yards of Football, Mr. Daniel Kelly, who was a high-level scout back in the day with the New York Jets, said this young man, he said, Vincent, he is the best tackle in the draft. Please, don't get it wrong because he went to an academic school at Northwestern. He told me, Vincent, all you got to do is go back in his sophomore year, the 2019 game film, and Northwestern played Ohio State. And look what he did against Chase Young, who last year, I believe, was one of the top rookies in the National Football League. And he handled him. Now with the defensive side of the ball. Now this is where it gets serious for the LA Chargers. I know they play in a tough division, the AFC West. Patrick Mahomes is still in that conference with the Kansas City Chiefs, and they got all them toys over there. But with Mr. Brandon Staley, last year being the head guy, the number 1 defense with the Rams, and he coming over here as the head coach, you got to think that the Chargers defensive level is going to go up to another level. Even though they lost a pretty good player in Melvin Ingram, didn't have the money to re-sign them. But boy, when you look at their defensive side of the ball, I like some of the playmakers they have. I'm going to start on the D-line. Joey Bosa. Brother Nick is coming back with San Francisco. But this young man, he might be top 3. 47.5 career sacks. Last year, 7.5 sacks. 17 quarterback hits, 15 tackles for losses. The Ohio State is in the house. Now they're going to move Jerry Tillery down to the defensive tackle position. All 6'7", 295. He can play. 30 tackles last year, 3 sacks. I expect him to be in a class of elite. Don't worry about Melvin Ingram stepping. And then losing him in free agency. Then end up drafting this young man who I think is the most one of the underrated draftees coming in 2021 season this year. My man, Mr. Chris Rump II, out of Duke University. 34 tackles for losses in his career, 17.5 sacks. Man, athlete, 6'4", about 245, wiry, strong, motor, A+. Speed, A+, strength, A+. But most of all, his father is the D-line coach for the Chicago Bears. Chris Rump II might be that guy. Then going to the linebacker position. All I have to say is this. Kenneth Murray made us all believe, coming out of Oklahoma last year, 107 tackles, that he was going to bring that Oklahoma history at the linebacker position. And he did just that. You think about Oklahoma, Mr. Murray, he let y'all know the smoke is still coming out of Oklahoma. Dante Jones, George Crumley, Daryl Hunt, Brian Bosworth. I'm here to represent. He did it at a high level, and he going to be under Brandon Staley. We might be talking about Kenneth Murray in that rim of being elite. Now the secondary. When I did my preview on the LA Chargers 2021 over the last few days, I didn't really realize that this secondary has some very special players. And this secondary can be one of the best in the National Football League, especially in the AFC West. I'm going to start with Michael Davis out of BYU. 14 passes defense last year, 4 INTs, a star in the making. I'm so glad the Chargers decided to re-sign him to a 1-year deal. Then I'm looking at, if this gentleman stays healthy, and I really mean this, he's been injured the last 2 years, but he came on the scene as a rookie. 105 tackles, 3 INTs, 10 passes defense. He was all over the field. He had the making of a Sean Taylor, a Kenny Easley Jr., a Dennis Smith. This guy got all the tools to be maybe the best safety to play the game in those gentlemen's arena. My man, Darren James, out of Haines City, Florida, by way of Florida State. He stays healthy. This defense goes from a top 10 to a top 5. He's that great a football player in the box, can cover, long, rangy, and can run. Then think about this. They got the best slot corner, I think, in the history of football. Chris Harris, Jr., Kansas Jayhawk. They can play football up there. Boy, 540 career tackles, 91 pass defense. Man, 54 interceptions. This guy's a football player. I can't believe the Broncos let him walk. And last year, he was injured a little bit, but he's a guy that's got what I call that lock the door coverage. And then think about this. They drafted the perfect player for their scheme. And Darren James lobbied for him. His father is a Super Bowl champion in his heyday with the New England Patriots. He goes by the name of Asante Samuel Jr. Man. I have to bow my head down because this guy at 5'9", about 190, is a football player. And to me, he's more physical than his father. 96 tackles in his career at Florida State, 4 INTs. The grade report on him, confident A+, competitive A+, ball skills A+. And you know what he's bringing from Florida State. When you think about the legacy, the history, he went there because his father went to Central Florida, but he went to Florida State, and he had to uphail what Florida State has built at the defensive back position. Now he's got to uphail that in the National Football League because you know why? Florida State is known for J.T. Thomas, Bobby Butler, Terrell Buckley, Leroy Butler, Corey Fuller, Corey Sawyer, Jalen Ramsey, and the gentleman that's down there, the head coach at Jackson State University, Deion Sanders. That's what Antonio Samuel is going to bring to the LA Chargers nation. Make it short and sweet. I love this football team out west. I'm not going to make no bones. I was sad to see Anthony Lynn get fired. But they can bring in a better coach at 38 years old that can relate to the players, and he got playmakers on both sides of the field. He got the Hollywood looks of Justin Herbert at the quarterback position. And he's ready to ascend to another level. He's got veteran experience at the receiver position, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. We are family Clemson. And the defense has got some serious playmakers. If Derwin James stays healthy, this defense can be a top 5. I like everything about this football team, and I think they play off bound. And I think with the other team out there, the LA Rams, there's going to be really some serious fight for a fan base out there, because the Chargers are going to be very special this year. And I predicted them to be a playoff team in a very tough division with the Kansas City Chiefs. I like everything about the LA Chargers. I like the persona, and I love the quarterback. I love the defensive stars. And I'm going to get back to the quarterback. In all my years, I'll be 61 on July 17th. I've never seen a football player have this ascension in the National Football League in Justin Herbert. He reminds me of Joe Namath, a guy who really supposed to came in and didn't even really supposed to start. And boy, he got on the field and he put it out there. And he really went to work. And he's in a city that he can get some star love. When you think about LeBron James with the Lakers, you think the former greats and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, the late great Kobe Bryant, the Dodgers with Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, even with the LA Kings in hockey with Wayne Gretzky. Justin Herbert has got that type of love. So that being said, my final words about the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC West. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, like the great band the Eagles, Hotel California. It's a lovely place. It's a lovely place. Justin Herbert might make it lovely this season in Los Angeles. The Chargers, they are warriors. They got a good head coach in Brandon Staley. Warriors come out to play. I like to give kudos to a gentleman that always make me look good every week. The greatest producer in the world. I love him to death. Out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, my man, Mr. Jeremiah Long. And special shout outs to my man from Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Ronnie Keebler. And my man from Lufkin, Texas, Mr. Mark Denham. And finally, before I forget, the Los Angeles Chargers have a gentleman that's out of my hometown, the 901. His name is Dante Vaughn, Notre Dame finest. And I hope he gets some time this year because he's a special football player. And he's an outstanding guy because you know why? I know his father, Louis Vaughn. Many blessings to you, man, because your son has made the 901 proud and he's playing on a real outstanding football team. And Louis, I've been knowing the young man ever since he was 10 years old. It's a small world. And before I end it, Dante Vaughn also graduated with my nephew from Whitehaven High School in Memphis, Tennessee. Whitehaven! To my nephew, Troy Sims, and his mother, Stephanie Turner. To everybody in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a fan of the LA Chargers simply because they got a loved one on their team from the 901, Dante Vaughn. Let me stop talking here because I'm getting excited. But y'all enjoy the rest of the week. We are 100 yards of football. And thank you again to my man, the greatest producer that really makes us look good here on 100 yards of football. And he's a guy that when I met him 2 years ago at this place called the Atlanta Voice, and he came up to me and he did this. Mr. Turner, if you need anything, here's my email and here's my phone number. And look where we at 100 yards of football. We are coming. My man, Jeremiah Long from Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Y'all be blessed here on 100 yards of football.